you do fight, what weight would it be at?
195.
Oh, wow. So he would go all the way from 40 to 95?
Yeah, I mean, it would be an exhibition.
Tank Davis or Jake Paul. So, immediately, yeah, a normal layman would say, oh, Tank Davis is better. Or better at what?
Jake Paul is unequivocally the most successful fighter in history 4 years in. No one comes close. No one.
The long-rumored clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis has reportedly been confirmed, sending shockwaves through the boxing world. According to Jake, the bout will be an exhibition, and final negotiations are nearly wrapped up. The timing? Right after Davis completes his anticipated rematch with Lamont Roach. Promo footage is already in the can, and both camps appear poised to launch a massive rollout. The buzz surrounding this fight is electric, two polarizing figures from vastly different boxing backgrounds now set to collide under the bright lights. With everything falling into place, fans can expect fireworks once the Roach rematch is out of the way.
If you do fight, what weight would it be at?
195.
Oh, wow. So he would go all the way from 40 to 95?
Yeah, I mean, it would be an exhibition.
Okay. But, and so what does that mean? Is that 3-minute rounds?
Yeah, 10 3-minute rounds.
And when you say exhibition, like, what are the restrictions on that?
No restrictions, just the fact that, like, we couldn't actually get it professionally sanctioned.
Okay. Is that still of interest to you? Like, if he wins the rematch and you beat Julio, is that of great interest to you later this year?
For sure. Like I said, big events. And, you know, when we had announcement videos filmed for Canelo and for Gervonta, like both filmed and fully edited. And my team went into the streets to ask people what they thought of me versus Gervonta. Every single person was like, Gervonta would kill Jake. He's gonna die, all of this stuff. And so just proving people wrong and changing the narrative and showing people that I'm a better boxer than all these so-called pound for pound is just...
Jake Paul's recent triumph over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. marked a pivotal moment in his transition from celebrity boxer to legitimate contender. That victory didn't just shut up his critics, it propelled him into the WBC's top 15 cruiserweights. Once written off as a YouTube sideshow, Jake now has a number beside his name, forcing champions and contenders alike to take notice. They can no longer afford to brush him off. Whether they like it or not, Jake's rise means the belts are now within arm's reach, and the longer champions avoid him, the more their credibility will be questioned. It's not just about fame anymore, it's about legacy, and Jake is suddenly part of that conversation.
Alright, so now that Jake Paul won his fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., he's apparently ranked top 15 cruiserweights in the world. And apparently, I guess now, world champions are able to fight voluntarily to defend their championship against Jake Paul. Which, if I'm being honest, that's kind of crazy, bro. Isn't that crazy? Right? You're telling me you fought somebody that's not a natural cruiserweight, right? And now you're automatically ranked top 15 and you can fight a couple of world champions and it makes sense. Not that I think he beats any of them. I'm gonna be completely honest. I can't see it, bro. If Jake ends up beating somebody, yo, shout out to him. He finessed his way to the fucking top and a world champion and really like cemented himself into the history books. But the way that he boxes, he's just very sluggish. It's kind of slow. You know, I think any cruiserweight world champion, even Badu Jack, would defeat him. And I actually don't even understand why he even wants to fight Anthony Joshua, besides the bag, obviously. But what do you guys think, though? This whole shit has gone crazy.
The whispers about a potential Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis showdown have been circulating for months, but Jake took things up a notch at the post-fight press conference for the Mike Tyson event. In front of the media and the boxing world, he called out Tank directly. This wasn't a clout grab. It was a declaration of intent. Jake made it clear he's ready to face elite names, and he's not afraid to stir the pot to make it happen. Behind the scenes, negotiations between both camps have reportedly taken place, giving real weight to what many first dismissed as fantasy. Whether for legacy, money, or pride, this matchup just got very real.
An interested observer on the Netflix event, Paul versus Tyson.
Why wouldn't you even want to fight him? And who told Mike Tyson to fight anyway?
Is Jake Paul someone you'd want to take on at one point?
Yeah. Tell him, this is my call out. Jake Paul, what up? What up, Jake Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down. Let's run it. Like, I'd be super, super down. I don't know if
Gervonta needs Jake Paul. Let's be clear, right?
Is there a height limit in boxing?
Tyson Fury, never one to mince words, weighed in on the potential Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight, and his take surprised many. While fans naturally assume Tank has the upper hand, Fury questioned the logic. What exactly makes Tank better than Jake? He asked. Fury didn't downplay Davis's talent, but instead highlighted Jake's unmatched ability to hype fights, draw global attention, and deliver record-breaking pay-per-view numbers. In Fury's view, Jake Paul is more than a fighter, he's a marketing machine. And in modern boxing, that kind of promotional power can sometimes matter just as much as skill.
Event. Anyone who don't think it's a fantastic event is jealous. Who's better, Tank Davis or Jake Paul? So, immediately, yeah, the normal layman would say, oh, Tank Davis is better. But better at what? Is he better at selling tickets? Is he better at selling stadiums out? Is he better at creating controversy? Is he better at getting followed on Instagram? Is he better at putting more eyeballs on the boxing? Is he better than him at that? The answer would be no. But is he better at him in a fight? It has to be really, you have to break it down. You know what I mean?
Jake Paul's influence on boxing extends far beyond what happens inside the ropes. He's revolutionized how the sport is packaged, promoted, and consumed. Through savvy social media tactics, brand partnerships, and major streaming deals, including with Netflix, Jake has created a new model for fighter-driven promotion. He's not just filling arenas, he's building a blueprint for how the next generation of boxers can thrive. By pushing the boundaries of traditional marketing, Jake has opened new doors for himself and others. Fighters who might have gone unnoticed are now benefiting from the spotlight he commands. Even seasoned pros have admitted, Jake knows how to make boxing big again.
Paul is unequivocally the most successful fighter in history 4 years in. No one comes close. No one. You couldn't list one that comes close, including Brock Lesnar if you include his WWE career. 4 years in terms of what he's done in terms of box office, pay-per-view, impact, helping other boxers, because he had platform, he had awareness, and he's got the focus and discipline to drive.
Many fans draw comparisons between a potential Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight and Logan Paul's exhibition with Floyd Mayweather. But the differences are stark. Jake has demonstrated a much stronger boxing foundation, improved technique, and a level of grit that goes beyond showmanship. Unlike his brother, Jake has taken real risks, built a credible resume, and proven he can stay composed under pressure. Add to that his size advantage over Tank Davis, and you've got the makings of a much more compelling contest. This wouldn't be just another flashy exhibition, it could be a legitimate athletic challenge that tests both men's skill and will.
Tank Davis versus Jake Paul exhibition match was going to take place after the Lamont Roach fight, until Tank threw with Roach, leading to a rematch. Now, I'm going to say the unpopular opinion here, but the size difference would have been way too much. I mean, even if Tank brought Jake down to 190 or 200 pounds, he would have still been way too big. I mean, no matter how good a lightweight is, they would have almost no chance against a cruiserweight or heavyweight ranked top 200 in his division. And I'm sure people are going to bring up Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul, but Logan is just not a good boxer relative to Jake. You know, Jake's been training for a couple years, he's had over 10 pro fights, and Mayweather was also junior middleweight in this fight, not a lightweight like Tank. But that being said, I'm glad Tank and Jake isn't happening. You know, it would have been a fun spectacle, but I'm not the biggest fan of the exhibition stuff. And instead now Tank and Roach will be rematching in June. You know, the first fight did a little over 260,000 pay-per-view buys, which isn't bad in this market. Roach absolutely deserves a second fight, so I do think the rematch will do far more numbers. And as for Jake, I want to see him fight big-name boxers around his weight class. You know, the Tommy Fury rematch, for example, he's undefeated. The first fight did a little over 800,000 pay-per-view buys. He's around the same age range, so that's the fight I want to see, not the exhibitions. But let me know
Whether or not Gervonta Davis will agree to fight Jake Paul remains a hot topic. Many argue that as a prize fighter, Tank should chase the biggest bag, and Jake undeniably brings that. But Tank's recent decision to decline Shakur Stevenson's offer from Turki Al-Sheikh, reportedly due to venue concerns in Saudi Arabia, has raised eyebrows. It suggests Tank may be very particular about where, when, and how he fights. Fans are now wondering, would he really take on Jake unless every single condition favors him? The matchup may depend less on hype and more on whether Tank believes it's worth the risk.
I've been told y'all Gervonta Tank Davis isn't a prize fighter. I know a lot of you guys say, well, he doesn't fight for belts, he doesn't fight for legacy, he fights for money. He's a prize fighter, Jerry. And I'm gonna assume a prize fighter is a guy who is solely making fights based off of cash reward. He'd rather fight a bum for 50 million than fight a guy who's experienced for 10 million. That is what a prize fighter would be. Actual definition, a professional boxer who competes in matches for money prizes. So let's take a look at it. Turki Al-Sheikh has declared he wants to make Tank versus Shakur. He says, my plan for Shakur is this fight. He's referring to Floyd Schofield, then Williams Zepeda, and then let's see if Tank wants to be in our show. Tank's not going to fight Shakur. He's not going to fight him in Saudi Arabia. Well, now that we've established Tank isn't a prize fighter, because if he was, his career resume would look a whole lot different, then we must ask, what is Tank's goal in boxing? I'll tell you right now, it's easy money. Tank is the type of guy, he'd rather fight, let's say, 4 Lamont Roaches for 20 million than fight 1 Shakur Stevenson for 80 million, which is fine. But I'm tired of people saying, oh, he's a prize fighter, that's why he's not taking these fights. He's not a prize fighter. The biggest money fights is Haney, Ryan, Tio, Shakur, and Loma. He's not even going to take half of those fights. So please, guys, all my Tank fans, all my guys who claim Tank is a prize fighter, that's why he's not fighting for the belts, please stop it. The guy's not a legacy fighter. He's not a prize fighter. He's just a guy who enjoys easy paydays. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Just stop misleading people with your comments.
Gervonta Davis, a dominant force below the lightweight limit, has long been encouraged by fans and analysts to challenge himself by moving up in weight. But if he were to accept a fight with Jake Paul, it wouldn't just be a step up, it would be a leap across divisions. Jake typically fights in the 190 to 200 pound range, putting him in the cruiserweight class, far beyond anything Davis has ever experienced. To face Jake, Tank would need a full-body transformation, including extensive changes to his conditioning, diet, and fighting style. The sheer size disparity would make this bout unlike any Davis has taken on, turning it into both a physical and strategic puzzle.
Okay, this is my personal take on it. I've been saying for a while that Gervonta Tank Davis needs to go up to 140 and challenge himself. Now, a lot of the fanboys, you Gervonta Tank Davis fanboys, call me a hater for that because y'all just don't get it. And I don't really blame fanboys. Fanboys are followers. So when you hear somebody talk with his own mind, talk like a leader, they're immediately unidentifiable. So you guys see him as a hater, all right? The truth of the matter is, Gervonta Tank Davis is a big-time predator. He's a big-time predator who needs to hunt big-time game. There are fighters who are just generational talents, right? And those fighters, they must get it all, have it all. And I know a lot of you guys will see it as money, right? Because y'all just not made of that stuff. And I've been trying to say it in live streams. I've been trying to say it in videos. I've been talking about boxing in a way from a perspective of big-time fighters, big-time legacy, and what makes a warrior from when they're small. Gervonta Tank Davis has been a beast for as long as he remembers. From a little kid, he's been a beast.
Despite his star power and knockout reputation, Gervonta Davis surprisingly doesn't crack the top 10 pound-for-pound rankings among lightweights, which has sparked debate in boxing circles. Many consider Tank one of the most dangerous names in his division, yet he hasn't earned the accolades to match. That raises an interesting question: would a high-profile fight with Jake Paul enhance his legacy or undermine it? On one hand, the bout could attract global attention and offer a new kind of challenge. On the other, critics might write it off as a spectacle rather than a meaningful test, potentially diluting Tank's standing as a serious competitor in the sport.
Davis is not a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter right now. He's arguably not even in the top 10 pound-for-pound right now. Despite how cool this picture is, it does not get him into the pound-for-pound list. Even though we could say that he could probably beat everyone in the lightweight division, even though I think he loses to Shakur, he hasn't done it, and he probably isn't gonna do it. But what would it take for him to get to the #1 pound-for-pound spot? Let's go over what he would have to do to reach #1. Well, first off, he'd obviously have to go undisputed in the lightweight division. And even though that would be great, I think that only cracks him like #4. Because the only one in the top 10 pound-for-pound in the lightweight division is maybe Shakur. But realistically, he's gonna have to do more than just go undisputed in the lightweight division. So obviously, he'd have to go up to 140 because there's no way he's making 130. And then he'd have to beat a dude like Teofimo, and he'd probably have to beat Devin Haney as well. And I think that could probably get him the #1 spot. But yeah, we can sit here and say Tank is one of the best pound-for-pound fighters right now, which I think he's one of the most talented, and I think he could do most of what I said. However, hypotheticals aren't going to work with pound-for-pound list.
Jake Paul has been clear about the timeline for any showdown with Gervonta Davis. It won't happen until after Davis settles his score with Lamont Roach in their highly anticipated rematch. That bout remains Davis's immediate priority, and rightfully so, as it holds major implications for his career trajectory. Only once the chapter is closed will both fighters be free to pursue what would surely be one of the most talked about events in combat sports. With momentum building and fans demanding answers, the stage is slowly being set. Jake's recent win over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. added even more legitimacy to his challenge, earning him unexpected praise from boxing veterans.
Gervonta were scheduled to fight for sure.
How real, or what was to it with you and Tank actually being a thing? Was that something that was talked about?
Yeah, no, it was highly talked about and in negotiations and almost ready to make happen, but he has to do his rematch with Lamont and get that W, and then we'll be able to run it back. But me and Gervonta were scheduled to fight for sure.
Among those impressed by Jake Paul's latest performance was former world champion Shane Mosley. Mosley commended Jake's footwork, composure, and overall execution, pointing out the evident strides he's made since entering the sport. In contrast, Mosley was blunt in his assessment of Chavez Jr., calling his strategy puzzling and suggesting that it might be time for the former champ to hang up the gloves. The post-fight contrast between the two couldn't have been clearer. Jake looked focused, hungry, and evolving, while Chavez Jr. seemed detached and out of sync. It was a turning point that solidified Jake's place in boxing's competitive narrative.
TV, being joined with Sugar Shane Mosley, Jake Paul, getting a unanimous decision over Chavez Jr. What are your impressions, Shanes, of how the fight went and how, especially Junior fought?
Well, first of all, I think that Jake Paul fought a good fight. You know, he moved around the way he's supposed to, throwing great punches, and for the experience he had, he did fantastic. Junior, on the other hand, he didn't throw any punches until the 3rd or 4th round or something. He was just kind of walking forward, and I don't know what he was doing. It was weird. It was weird to see that type of fighting. But anywho, that's not Jake Paul's fault. So Jake Paul did what he needed to do, and he won, and he looked good.
Where do you think Junior goes from here, in your opinion, Shane?
Junior needs to retire from here. He needs to retire. I mean, if you can't throw any punches in 2, 3, 4 rounds, you need to retire. I mean, if you can, what are you doing? What are we doing? You just living up. Basically, you living off your father's name. That's basically what you do, because you didn't even fight until the last round, maybe last two rounds, and threw some punches, and you had some success when you threw some punches. It's the weirdest thing.
Jake Paul didn't waste a moment after his victory. He made sure his doubters heard him loud and clear. This wasn't just another win padded on a weak resume, it was a statement of resilience. He took real punches, endured real pressure, and showed real grit. For years, critics dismissed Jake as a novelty act, a celebrity dabbling in a sport too dangerous to play around with. But that night, Jake earned respect. He didn't fold under fire, he delivered. And with that, the narrative began to shift from influencer boxer to legitimate contender.
Between you and Cesar Chavez Jr. tonight. Now, in round 9, the heat really turned up. Did you feel the Mexican power that he promised, or do you feel like he didn't perform the way you thought that he would?
No, yeah, he brought a hard fight there at the end, and that's that Mexican warrior style. I don't know how he was eating all those punches, to be honest. My hands low-key hurt from his face, and so respect to him. He had good cardio and he came on strong at the end. He's a very, very strong guy, had a lot of power, but people underestimate my chin and my ability, my toughness.
Jonathan Agger of Pro Boxing Fans. During the week, you had a viral interview with Piers Morgan where he said that he didn't think that you would beat Chavez. He felt like when you fight a former world champion, you'll come unstuck. What did you prove to not only him but other people that have criticised you?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words, so people can sit behind their desks and sit on their TV shows and say a lot of things about my career, but everyone's tuning in, everyone's watching, and I just continue to win.
One of the most significant endorsements of Jake Paul's progress came from Rayo Valenzuela, an active fighter respected within the boxing community. After Jake's impressive performance, Rayo publicly acknowledged that Paul had earned his place among the top 15 to 20 fighters in his division. This wasn't empty praise, it came from someone who knows what it takes to compete at that level. For Jake, this validation was bigger than the win itself. It marked a turning point where insiders began viewing him as more than just an outsider with a platform. It confirmed he's now a real presence in the sport.
Fight. Oh, great fight. Julio's back after all he's been through, so I tip my hat off to him. It's not easy, especially through when life throws at you sometimes. But it was a good fight.
What'd you make of how Jake Paul looked and fought?
He's doing his thing. Jake Paul's looking good. Shout out to him. Yeah.
You think he's ready to fight maybe a top 15, top 20?
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess where does Junior go from here, in your opinion?
It's up to him. He can retire if he wants, or he can have another, fight like this. Fight a YouTuber or something.
Yeah. In terms of you, Rayo, when can we see you back in the ring?
I'll be back in the fall, hopefully.
And that wraps up today's breakdown of the Jake Paul vs. Gervonta Davis saga, a potential clash that could flip the boxing world on its head. With massive implications for both fighters, and fan interest at a fever pitch, all eyes remain on what happens after Tank's rematch with Lamont Roach. Stay locked in, we're just getting started.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more exciting videos, make sure to hit the bell icon and stay updated. Subscribe to Boxing Hub now for all the latest in boxing.